all across America and around the world. This is Veterans Radio. This is Veterans Radio.
Welcome to Veterans Radio. I am Jim Fausone. I'm the officer of the deck today. We've got some great programs for you. I think you'll find very interesting. We always want to remind you, you can find more about Veterans Radio at its Facebook site or at the web. Veteransradio.org is our new URL, veteransradio.org, where we're on the web 24/7. You can find a lot of our podcasts there as well. We post new ones every Tuesday, so you can get a new story, a new interview, something you didn't know before by going to veteransradio.org. And before we get started, we want to thank our sponsors. First up, we want to thank National Veteran Business Development Council, nvbdc.org. It was established to certify both service-disabled and veteran-owned businesses. You'll find out how they can help your business by going to nvbdc.org. We want to thank Legal Help for Veterans. Legal Help for Veterans fights for veterans' disability rights all across the nation. You can reach them at 800-693-4800 or on the web at legalhelpforveterans.com. Welcome, I am Jim Fausone, and this is Veterans Radio's Spotlight on the National Veteran Business Development Council, commonly known as nvbdc.org. Veterans Radio America is a nonprofit and has a partnership with NVBDC, which is the nation's leading third-party authority for certification of veteran-owned businesses, really of all sizes. This 501c3 nonprofit was established in 2013, and it addresses the growing need to identify and certify both service-disabled and veteran-owned businesses for the commercial and the government marketplace. NVBDC administers a rigorous certification process designed to withstand the scrutiny of governmental and corporate entities seeking to utilize certified service-disabled and veteran-owned businesses. We want to welcome to Veterans Radio Day Keith Mear with Commercial Diving and Marine Services. He's a veteran from the era of 1990 to 94. Keith, welcome to Veterans Radio.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, tell us a little bit about your service.
In July of 90, I entered into the Marine Corps, and I went through boot camp, of course, and then I was assigned to the School of Infantry over. And when I left the School of Infantry, I went right over to 29 Palms for desert training in lieu of Desert Storm, which was happening at the time. And from 29 Palms, when I got out of desert training, the war was over, and so I got my first duty assignment to Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii, and from there I spent the next 3 years going between Hawaii, Japan, Thailand, and the Philippines. I was a anti-tank assault man using the Dragon missile system, and from there I moved into fire support coordination at the battalion and regimental levels, and after doing that for a year or so, I went ahead and I got out and went on to diving school, commercial diving school.
Well, you have a very interesting business, and we're going to talk some more about it in terms of commercial diving, but where did that interest come from? If you were a Navy guy, I would have thought, well, okay, he got it when he was in service, but where did this come from?
It kind of evolved, being in Hawaii and then the other very beautiful lands of Japan, Thailand, and the Philippines. I started scuba diving for fun with my buddies, and when I was getting ready to get out, I was actually looking to go into a combat diving billet, but my command didn't seem very interested in letting me go there. They wanted to keep me in the fire support coordination, and anyhow, one thing led to another, and I had offers to go to Japan as a civilian and teach scuba diving to the Japanese locals. And another gentleman got a hold of me and said, Keith, you should really look into the commercial diving world. You might be very interested in it. So I did, and I decided to go on to commercial diving school, knowing that if I didn't like it, I'd be able to, fall back on maybe teaching scuba diving again or something of that nature. And one thing led to another, and as soon as I got out of the diving school, I knew that's pretty much what I wanted to do the rest of my life. So I came back to Michigan, and I started working for this company, and here I am 30 years later. I've taken over the company.
Well, that's always interesting, right? 30 years later, I guess I liked it. I guess I like commercial diving and the whole business application of it. But I want to talk a little bit about the fact that you went through the process to have Commercial Diving and Marine Services, Inc. be a certified veteran-owned business through the auspices of NVBDC. Why'd you make that decision?
So honestly, I had started out trying to be certified through the VA, and the process was very difficult. It was very confusing, and one of our clients, which is one of the sponsors, they suggested that I look into the NVBDC, and so I did. I got a hold of them, and it was still a very difficult process. There's a lot of things you have to prove, a lot of paperwork to ensure that the veteran is actually running the company, not just a figurehead. And then I realized that the corporate world would rather see the NVVDC certification than the VA certification anyhow. And one thing led to another. I definitely wanted to be a certified business to show that a veteran was running the business. And we ended up going through the process, which was actually a very good process. And then our clients actually, a lot of them do ask for matrix like this that do help them with their metrics moving forward. It's just another feather in the cap, and we get a lot of get a lot of inquiries about certifications like that, and it's nice to have this one.
Well, one of the things I think you've just sort of drawn the line about, which is, you try to go through a government bureaucracy process, and a lot of times it's confusing and you get no help. You call an 800 number and nobody answers the phone. But what was your experience in working with NVBDC to go through this process? Because as I said and you acknowledge, it's kind of rigorous. You got to really do a lot of stuff.
It's not a sit down in the afternoon and knock it out. It takes a couple of weeks to get through it at least, and then they review everything you've submitted, and they get back to you with questions, and they want more documents. And nothing is so difficult that a legitimate company can't get through. And again, that's exactly what they're doing, is they're making sure it's a legitimate company being run by the veteran. And they were there at every turn. There's handlers, I'll say, that I could call and ask questions, and they would give me suggestions on where to go to get certain documents that were needed. They would help me with certain documents. The commercial diving business is definitely different than, say, an electrician or something like that. So some of the things that they normally would request, we would have to get creative and come up with things that applied more to my side of the business than what another contractor might have. And all in all, the first time was, like I said, a couple of weeks to get through at least. And then the recertifications obviously are much easier now that we've already certified one time.
And I suppose that you get asked by veterans, business owners, hey, would you recommend I go through this with these guys? And what's the response?
Oh yeah, definitely. I would always say to them, yeah, it's a good process to go through. And then, even if your clients aren't asking for it, pony it up, send them your certification. A lot of times you'll get an email back thanking you very much. They wouldn't have even known unless you sent it to them. And some of these bigger corporations that we work for, they really, really appreciate that. And honestly, they never say, hey, we're going to give you a preferential treatment or anything, but you can kind of feel it in the background that they look to you. They look to you like us.
Well, it's certainly a good recommendation to any veteran-owned business to go ahead and go through the work of getting the certification. NVBDC.org is there to help you. Your phone calls will be returned, and they'll help you get through the process. But what I want to do now is turn a little bit to this really interesting niche business that you have. Tell us about commercial diving and marine services, what it does, and who are the kind of clients it services.
So we like to term ourselves as a full-service underwater contractor. We can pretty much do what most construction companies do on land. We can do underwater. We can build forms and pour concrete. We work on equipment that's underwater, pumps and power plants. We clean out water intakes. We have underwater welders on staff. We do non-destructive testing in the water, which is like ultrasonics on steel or other structures for thickness readings. Essentially, we can do just about anything that is done on land, but we do it underwater.
Now, you're located in Michigan and the Great Lakes region. Is your service territory just in the U.S.? Is it in Canada? Is it wider? Give us some sense of what you guys cover.
We do work only in the United States. We've done a couple of very small projects in Canada. It's much more difficult to work in Canada just because of different regulations, and they have to try and use Canadian contractors over out of country contractors. So we primarily are very lucky. We can stay very busy here in Southeast Michigan, but we've traveled as far as California, Texas, Florida, and everywhere in between over the years. But primarily, we're very lucky to stay right in the Great Lakes region.
And you mentioned that one of your customers actually said, hey, you ought to, if you're trying to get certified, you ought to go see NVBDC.org and see if you can work through their process. How has the reception been from potential clients or existing clients after getting the certification?
Again, it's been very well received, and a lot of times we will get thank yous from them for giving our certification to them. Again, a lot of these metrics are tracked now across the board for diversity purposes, and it's very helpful to some of these larger companies that rely on those metrics.
I do know that NVBDC has a number of networking events, and some of their corporate members will put out calls for, hey, we need this or that. Do you have anybody in your database that's veteran-owned that can do this? But I would think in your niche, because it's so unique, that there isn't a lot of opportunity to get those kind of calls for somebody with services. But maybe I'm wrong. How does it work?
So you're exactly right. I have not necessarily had a cold call from anybody saying that they found us through the NVBDC. And it's probably because of the niche that we're in. We really haven't seen that. I guess I could name drop because they are one of the bigger ones in there. DTE Energy is one of our larger clients. We do a lot of work for them with their power plants and water intakes and what have you. And again, they are one of the ones that's very appreciative of us.
Well, I also know that there's a lot of water treatment plants with intakes and that sort of stuff, and things people don't think about that stick into the lake that needs cleaning and maintenance and all of those sorts of things. So I suspect that the average Joe out in the public would be surprised at the type of work that you guys have to do.
Yeah, it even surprises me at times when we get into different projects, something new comes along. I'll have divers set up barricades in the middle of a busy thoroughfare and pop a manhole, and next thing you know, we got all of our equipment spread out and we're diving in a sewer in the middle of the city.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that.
These really popular fishing spots, we got to go along, everybody to move away for a little bit, and we throw a diver over the seawall and they go out and they work in a water intake for half a day or something of that nature. So there are a lot of places that we start getting into. We dive in like the water features at some of the zoos, doing maintenance because they can't just drain water out of some of the exhibits, and so we'll do modifications and we'll do repairs in zoos. Potable water plants, that just goes with the territory. It's just part of the business, and it can be very interesting. And then you're having a nice quiet weekend and you hear of a barge that sinks and you're mobilizing a crew out to go and salvage a barge that's blocking up a shipping channel or something.
Yeah, the diversity of it and the you don't know the next call is gonna be kind of makes it sort of interesting, I would think.
Yes, it does.
We're talking to Keith Mear, who's with Commercial Diving and Marine Services, Inc. Keith, if folks want to know more about your business and gather some more potential information for calling you in the future, how do they get a hold of you?
So we have a website. It is www.workingdiver.com, and on there, my email address is there, company phone numbers. There's some information and some pictures and some links to YouTube. So that's a good resource right there. That's probably the best way of getting a hold of us.
Okay, you've got one of the best websites describing the business that you do I think I've ever heard. So it's workingdiver.com. That's a great website to have.
Yeah, I can't take credit for that. The former owner came up with that many years ago, and he locked it down, and I keep a hold of it pretty tight.
Yeah, when they're that good, you know they're that old, because you'd never get that today. So we want to thank Keith Mear for talking to us today about the National Veteran Business Development Council, NVBDC, and talking about his business, Commercial Diving and Marine Services, which a Marine jarhead got into after service, and 30-some years later is going, hey, I guess this is working out all right, isn't it?
Yep, sure is.
Well, Keith, thanks for spending time with us today.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. I appreciate your time.
And I want to thank everybody for listening to Veterans Radio today. I am Jim Fausone. It's been a pleasure to be your host. I'm a veterans disability lawyer at Legal Help for Veterans, and you can reach us at 800-693-4800 or legalhelpforveterans.com on the web. You can follow Veterans Radio on Facebook and listen to its podcasts and internet radio shows
by visiting us at veteransradio.org. That's veteransradio.org.
And until next time, you are dismissed.
If you have a VA claim denied by the Board of Veterans' Appeals, contact Legal Help for Veterans at 1-800-693-4800. They're experts in handling cases before the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. Their number again, 1-800-693-4800.
We again want to thank our national sponsors, the National Veterans Business Development Council, NVBDC.org, VA Ann Arbor Health Care System, the Vietnam Veterans of America Charles S. Kettles Chapter, Ann Arbor, Michigan, VFW Graf O'Hara Post 423 in Ann Arbor, and the American Legion Press Corn Post 46, also in Ann Arbor. We appreciate all your support. You can go to veteransradio.net, click on the sponsor level, and continue to support keeping Veterans Radio on the air. And until next time, you are dismissed.
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, oh, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.